The road to Indianapolis officially begins now. Selection Sunday has just concluded, and the 2026 bracket is finally set, featuring a mix of powerhouse programs and hungry upstarts. This year, the parity in college hoops is at an all-time high, with the one seeds Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida all coming off wild conference tournaments that prove no one is invincible. We've got coaching icons like Rick Pitino and Tom Izzo lurking in the middle of the bracket, while star freshmen like Cameron Boozer and Darren Peterson are ready to show out. In the Midwest, Dusty May has Michigan at the top line in just his second year, while in the South, the reigning champion Florida Gators are looking to repeat. We are going to break down every single matchup based on the bracket provided, from the first four winners to the final four favorites. Get your pens ready. It's time to fill out the 2026 bracket. The first matchup is number 1 Duke versus 16 Siena. Led by the Boucher twins Cameron and Caden, Duke enters as the top overall seed with massive expectations. Junior Caleb Foster provides the veteran backcourt stability needed to navigate early pressure. Siena plays with a gritty defensive identity, but they lack the height to stop Duke's length from dominating the offensive glass. Ultimately, the Blue Devils' sheer talent and size leads to a comfortable victory. Duke wins. This is a classic 8-9 battle between two physical programs looking to establish an interior presence. Ohio State leans on the veteran leadership of Bruce Thornton and the high-energy play of Devin Royal inside. TCU counters with a transition offense that tries to speed up the Buckeyes' methodical half-court sets. Ohio State's ability to control the glass in the final 4 minutes secures the win. Rick Pitino has the Johnnies playing at a chaotic pace, utilizing the length of Zuby Ejiofor and Bryce Hopkins. Their relentless full-court press is designed to fatigue mid-major opponents and force live ball turnovers. Northern Iowa is a classic 12-seed threat with high IQ shooters, but they struggle against this level of pressure. The Red Storm's superior depth and athleticism wear the Panthers down by the second half. St. John's wins. Bill's self-squad features freshman phenom Darren Peterson and the defensive anchor Flory Badunga. Kansas's post talent will be overwhelming for Cal Baptist's smaller perimeter-oriented roster. While the Lancers will play with house money and launch three-pointers, the Jayhawks' interior dominance provides a steady lead. Melvin Council's leadership will keep Kansas's offense in rhythm. Kansas wins. Number 1 Duke takes on Ohio State, and Duke's Boozer twins proved to be too much for the Buckeyes' interior defense in a physical second-round matchup. The Blue Devils advance behind dominant rebounding and transition scoring that Ohio State cannot match over 40 minutes. Duke continues to look like the number 1 overall seed with their efficiency on both ends. Number 5 St. John's versus number 4 Kansas. A coaching masterclass between Bill Self and Rick Pitino leads to a back-and-forth thriller. The Red Storm's relentless press eventually forces the Jayhawks into late-game mistakes that secures the upset. St. John's speed and defensive pressure proved to be the equalizer against Kansas's interior height. St. John's wins. Duke versus St. John's, a historic clash in the East Region Sweet 16. Duke's talent is immense, but the Red Storm's pressure disrupts their rhythm in the final minutes. St. John's pulls off a monumental upset to reach the Elite Eight under Rick Pitino. Number 6 Louisville versus number 11 South Florida. Louisville's backcourt of Mikel Brown Jr. and Ryan Conwell have the ability to score in bunches when the game opens up. South Florida brings a no-middle defense that forces opponents into contested perimeter shots, making this a tactical boxing match. Isaac McNeely is the go-to guy for Louisville when the offense stalls in the half-court. South Florida stays close through physical defense and elite rebounding, and eventually pull off the upset. Michigan State versus North Dakota State. Never bet against Tom Izzo in March, especially with a backcourt led by Jeremy Fears Jr. and the physical presence of Jackson Kohler. The Spartans thrive on a transition game that starts with elite defensive rebounding and quick outlet passes. North Dakota State has the scoring talent to keep it interesting for a half, but they lack the bench depth to compete. Michigan State's smash-mouth defense effectively neutralizes the Bison's primary scoring threats. Michigan State wins. UCLA now features Louisville transfer Sky Clark, who provides a modern look to Mick Cronin's defensive system. Donovan Dent handles the primary scoring load in what is expected to be a low-scoring physical rock fight. UCF is an athletic team that can match UCLA's physicality, but often struggle to find consistent rhythm against elite pressure. UCLA's veteran composure and defensive discipline leads them to the next round. UCLA wins. UConn versus Furman, and UConn is led by the elite playmaking of Georgia transfer Silas Demery Jr. and veteran forward Alex Caravan. Terrace Reed Jr. anchors the middle, providing the rim protection that has become a staple of Dan Hurley's programs. Furman is a dangerous shooting team, but the Huskies' perimeter length makes it difficult for smaller guards to find looks. UConn wins comfortably. South Florida vs. Michigan State. Tom Izzo wins the chess match as Jeremy Fears Jr. controls the tempo and stifles South Florida's physical perimeter defense. The Spartans advance to the Sweet 16 with a clinical defensive performance and veteran poise. Michigan State's ability to limit second chance points becomes the deciding factor. Michigan State wins. UCLA vs. UConn, a blue blood battle where the defensive intensity is turned up to the highest level. UCLA's Donovan Dent and Tyler Bilodeau make the winning plays late, knocking out UConn in a shocking second-round exit. The Bruins' ability to grind out possessions prevents UConn from finding their offensive rhythm. UCLA wins. Michigan State vs. UCLA. Two defensive juggernauts meet in a low-scoring battle where every bucket is earned. Xavier Booker provides the modern floor spacing that allows UCLA to secure a narrow victory over his former team. The Bruins' defensive discipline down the stretch prevents a Spartans comeback. Arizona vs. Long Island. Arizona is built around the star freshman power of Koa Pete and Braden Burries, as well as the veteran leadership of Jaden Bradley. They play at an elite pace, and Moji Krivas could dominate the interior for a high-scoring blowout. LIU is led by the legendary Rod Strickland, but they lack the height to contest Arizona's high-percentage looks. The Wildcats cruise to an easy victory to start their march. Arizona wins. Villanova vs. Utah State. Villanova features standout Duke Brennan, who provides the necessary scoring punch alongside a high IQ roster. Utah State is a physical rebounding team that will attempt to turn the game into a grinded-out affair in the paint. This matchup is a total contrast of Big East finesse versus Mountain West grit. The outcome is decided at the free throw line, where Villanova traditionally excels. Number 5 Wisconsin versus number 12 High Point. High Point enters the tournament with a top-tier scoring offense and a high-variance style that terrifies higher seeds. Wisconsin relies on the steady play of John Blackwell and Nick Boyd and a methodical defensive scheme that aims to limit possessions. If High Point gets hot from the perimeter early, the Badgers may struggle to find their scoring to keep pace. Ultimately, Wisconsin's discipline in the half-court allows them to survive. Number 4 Arkansas versus number 13 Hawaii. John Calipari has the Hogs clicking with freshman star Malik Thomas and the versatile Darius Acuff. Arkansas's speed and defensive versatility overwhelm Hawaii's veteran group by the middle of the second half. Hawaii is well coached, but lacks the individual talent to match the Razorbacks' depth. Expect Trevon Brazile to have a big impact as he anchors the paint. Arkansas wins. Arizona versus Villanova. Arizona's transition speed and Koa Pete's versatility overwhelm Villanova's half-court sets over 40 minutes. The Wildcats secure a comfortable victory to march into the Sweet 16 with their high-powered offense clicking on all cylinders. Arizona's ability to score in bunches proves too much for Villanova to handle. Wisconsin versus Arkansas. The Razorbacks use their elite length and athleticism to shut down the perimeter and feed Trevon Brazile inside. Arkansas moves on after outlasting the Badgers in a high-intensity battle of styles. The Razorbacks' speed in the open court becomes the deciding factor in the second half. Arizona versus Arkansas. John Calipari is denied a Final Four trip as Arizona's pace and Koa Pete proved too explosive for the Razorbacks. The Wildcats march into the Elite Eight with another high-scoring performance that showcases their depth. Arizona's transition game keeps Arkansas on their heels for the entire 40 minutes. BYU vs. NC State. NC State advances after defeating Texas in the first 4, led by Darian Williams. They now face a BYU team led by the nation's leading scorer and potential top pick, AJ Dybonsa. NC State's physical defense must be perfect to slow down Dybonsa's elite 3-level scoring ability. This game is a high-energy transition battle with both teams looking to push the pace. BYU wins. Number 3 Gonzaga vs. 14 Kennesaw State. With Braden Huff still out due to injury, the Zags lean heavily on the interior dominance of Graham Ike. Playmaking falls to Adam Miller as Gonzaga looks to push the pace from the opening tip for a high-scoring shootout. Markview's teams are notoriously efficient in the first round, and this year is no different. Even with a key injury, the Zags have too much depth for the Owls to contain. Number 7 Miami vs. 10 Missouri. Miami is led by Michigan transfer Trey Donaldson and the veteran scoring presence of Ernest Uda. Missouri counters with Mark Mitchell in a fascinating clash of Miami's speed versus Missouri's length. This game is decided in the backcourt, where Miami has the advantage. Miami wins. Purdue vs. Queens. Purdue is led by Braden Smith, who is on the verge of breaking the all-time NCAA assist record. Daniel Jacobson provides a 7'5" interior presence that Queens simply cannot match on either end. Queens plays a unique run and jump press, but Smith's poise allows the Boilermakers to navigate it easily. Purdue's discipline and massive size advantage put the game away by the 10-minute mark. Purdue wins. BYU vs Gonzaga. In a high-octane shootout between two high-powered offenses, BYU's perimeter shooting proves to be the difference. The Cougars pull off the upset to reach the Sweet 16 as their sharpshooters find consistent looks against the Zags' defense. BYU's ability to stretch the floor opens up driving lanes that Gonzaga cannot close. BYU wins. Miami vs Purdue. Braden Smith dismantles Miami's pressure with elite vision, finding open shooters to secure a comfortable Boilermaker win. Purdue moves into the Sweet 16 with a dominant showing, proving that their size is an asset against Miami's physical length. Braden Smith and the Boilermakers find the open looks late to overcome a valiant BYU perimeter attack. Purdue reaches the Elite Eight to face the top-seeded Wildcats for a Final Four spot. The Boilermakers' disciplined half-court offense proves to be the stabilizer against BYU's scoring burst. Purdue wins. Florida vs Lehigh. The reigning champs will open against Lehigh after the Mountain Hawks beat Prairie View A&M in the first four. Alex Condon and Ruben Chinyelu lead the Gators' quest for a repeat title. Lehigh has some capable shooters, but Florida's length and SEC athleticism are overwhelming from the very start. Todd Golden will look to establish a physical tone and rest his starters early in the second half. Number 8 Clemson versus number 9 Iowa. This is a fascinating battle of styles, with Iowa relying on veteran grit and Clemson wanting to push the pace. This matchup is a complete toss-up that comes down to the final few possessions of the game. Iowa needs to hit their perimeter shots early to keep Clemson from packing the paint against them. Iowa's transition scoring proves to be just enough to overcome Clemson's physical interior play. Iowa wins. Vanderbilt vs McNeese. Vanderbilt enters the tournament as the hot team after a surprising run to the SEC tournament title, led by Tyler Tanner. McNeese is a veteran squad that won't be intimidated by the bright lights or the SEC speed. This is a back-and-forth affair with multiple lead changes in the final 10 minutes. Vanderbilt's confidence and momentum carries them through a late McNeese rally to secure the narrow win. Nebraska vs Troy. Nebraska is led by Berke Tunsil and Rink Mast as they hunt for their first NCAA tournament victory in school history. Troy is a high-variance team that tries to lure Nebraska into a three-point contest to neutralize their post size. The Huskers have a significant advantage in the paint that they exploit on nearly every offensive possession. However, Troy hits their shots early and secures the upset victory. Florida vs Iowa. The reigning champs are pushed by Iowa's transition game, but Alex Condon's presence secures the narrow win. Florida marches into the Sweet 16 to keep their repeat bid alive with veteran composure under pressure. The Gators' ability to slow the game down in the final minutes proved crucial. Number 5 Vanderbilt versus number 13 Troy. Vanderbilt's momentum from the SEC tournament continues as they outshoot Troy in a high-scoring second-round matchup. The Commodores reach the Sweet 16 behind Tyler Tanner, ending Troy's historic run. Florida vs Vanderbilt. The Gators' bid for a repeat continues. Florida's athleticism and depth proved too much for the hot-shooting Vanderbilt squad in the South Region semifinals. Florida reaches the Elite Eight with another convincing win that showcases their tournament experience. North Carolina vs VCU. With Caleb Wilson injured, the Tar Heels rely more heavily on the scoring of Seth Trimble. VCU brings a high-pressure defense that tests North Carolina's ball handling from the opening tip. VCU's havoc style forces uncharacteristic turnovers and prevents the Tar Heels from getting into their offensive rhythm. VCU pulls off the upset as the Tar Heels struggle to score consistently. VCU wins. Illinois vs Penn. Illinois features 7-footer Tomislav Ivisic and a highly athletic roster that loves to run the floor in transition. Their speed and interior dominance leads to a comfortable victory over a disciplined Penn squad. Penn tries to use backdoor cuts to stay competitive, but they lack the height to contest Illinois at the rim. Expect Kylan Boswell to provide the veteran leadership needed to keep the Illini focused. St. Mary's features a disciplined roster led by the shooting of Luke Barrett. This physical battle is decided by the Gales' execution in the final minutes of a very tight shot clock. Texas A&M is a relentless rebounding team that tries to win the game on the offensive glass. The Aggies' physicality and second chance points eventually wear down the Gales' methodical half-court defense. Texas A&M wins. Houston vs Idaho. Houston enters the tournament with the best defense in the country, led by the physical play of Emmanuel Sharp and Joseph Tugler. Milos Uzan provides the backcourt poise and veteran leadership that Kelvin Sampson's teams are known for. Idaho finds it nearly impossible to get clean looks against the Cougars' constant suffocating pressure. Houston moves on in a dominant fashion to start their championship run. VCU vs Illinois. The Visage twins dominate the boards, allowing Illinois to overcome VCU's defensive pressure and advance to the Sweet 16. The Illini look like a dangerous threat in the South with their balanced scoring attack. Illinois' length makes it difficult for VCU to find the same success they've had against UNC. Illinois wins. Texas A&M vs. Houston. Houston's physicality and defensive pressure suffocate the Aggies as the Cougars march into the Sweet 16 behind Joseph Tugler. Houston remains a top contender for the national title as their culture of toughness outlasts Texas A&M. The Cougars' rebounding dominance prevents any second-chance opportunities for the Aggies. Houston wins. Illinois vs. Houston. Houston's defense is legendary, but Keaton Wagler and the Illini find a way to score inside late. Illinois pulls off the upset to reach the Elite Eight in the South region. The Illini's ability to stretch Houston's defense creates the space needed for the winning bucket. Illinois wins. Michigan opens as the 1 seed after Howard defeated UMBC in the first 4. Dusty May has the Wolverines playing unselfish basketball led by Elliot Cadeau and 7-footer Adai Mara. Michigan's ability to move the ball and find open shooters makes them a nightmare for any 16 seed to scout. Howard is overmatched by Michigan's length and athleticism at every position on the floor. Michigan wins. Georgia vs. St. Louis. Georgia relies on the scoring load of Blue Kane, while St. Louis features mismatch nightmare Robbie Avila. This back-and-forth game comes down to the final minutes as both teams trade high-efficiency baskets. Georgia brings SEC-level athleticism, but St. Louis plays a highly disciplined, efficient brand of basketball. St. Louis wins. With JT Toppin out due to injury, the Red Raiders lean heavily on Christian Anderson and a physical defense. Akron is a dangerous 12 seed that uses high screen actions to create perimeter looks for their experienced guards. This is one of the lowest scoring games of the first round as Akron tries to exploit Texas Tech's lack of interior depth. Ultimately, Akron's perimeter shooting and energy lead to the classic 12-over-5 upset. Alabama vs. Hofstra. Alabama features a new-look backcourt led by LeBaron Philon. They play at a relentless pace, challenging Hofstra to keep up with high-volume three-point shooting. Hofstra is a talented mid-major, but they lack the bench depth to maintain that energy for 40 minutes. If the Tide are hitting their shots, this game gets out of hand by the middle of the second half. Michigan vs. St. Louis. Dusty May's squad remains composed as Ellie Cadeau takes over late to guide Michigan past the disciplined St. Louis team. The Wolverines move into the Sweet 16 with a strong second half that exploits St. Louis's limited bench. Michigan's ability to create multiple scoring options makes them difficult to scout on a short turnaround. Michigan wins. Akron vs. Alabama. Alabama's scoring volume and relentless pace keep them in this game, but the Zips are too much for Alabama to handle over 40 minutes. The Crimson Tide fall to Akron, and Akron's upset run continues. Michigan vs. Akron. Dusty May's unselfish system overcomes Akron's high-volume shooting in a high-scoring Midwest Sweet 16 shootout. The Wolverines reach the Elite Eight as the region's top seed, showcasing their offensive versatility. Tennessee will face SMU after the Mustangs knocked off Miami, Ohio in the first 4. The Vols rely on the elite rim protection of Felix Okpara and a suffocating physical defense. SMU has a dynamic backcourt that tries to stretch the Tennessee defense with perimeter shooting. Rick Barnes' teams are notoriously difficult to beat when the game turns into a physical wrestling match. Tennessee wins. Virginia features a disciplined roster led by the interior presence of Johan Grunlaw. This game is played at a slow, methodical pace, which perfectly favors Virginia's elite defensive system. Wright State has a high-octane offense, but they struggle to find clean looks against the Cavaliers' constant pressure. Expect a low-possession game where Virginia's discipline and late-game free-throw shooting secure the victory. Kentucky leans on veteran Otega Oweh and a highly talented freshman class that is still finding its consistency. Santa Clara is a smart squad that uses intricate ball screens to create mismatches for their guards. This is a massive danger game for the Wildcats if they don't value the basketball. Kentucky's raw talent and individual star power eventually win out in the final 5 minutes. Kentucky wins. Iowa State vs. Tennessee State. Taman Lipsey is the heart and soul of the Cyclones team, supported by the elite floor spacing of Milan Momcilovic. Iowa State's defensive pressure is designed to turn teams over and generate easy transition scoring. Tennessee State is a great story, but the Cyclones are a defensive buzzsaw that few 15 seeds can handle. The Cyclones control the game from the opening tip to secure a comfortable win. Iowa State wins. Tennessee vs. Virginia, a defensive slugfest where Virginia's discipline and late-game execution give them the edge. Virginia reaches the Sweet 16 after a defensive masterclass that limits Tennessee's scoring in the paint. The Cavaliers' patient offensive approach eventually finds the gaps in the Vols' defense. Kentucky vs. Iowa State. Otega Oweh puts on a defensive clinic, forcing turnovers that lead the Wildcats to a comfortable second-round victory over the veteran Cyclones. Kentucky moves on with serious momentum, proving their defense can handle elite individual talent. The Cavaliers' pack-line defense slows down Kentucky's Stars, securing a narrow win to reach the Elite Eight. Virginia looks to return to the Final Four for the first time since 2019 by staying true to their defensive identity. The Cavaliers' ability to force long possessions frustrates Kentucky's high-tempo offense. St. John's vs. UCLA. Rick Pitino returns to the Final Four. The Red Storm's defensive pressure proves too much for UCLA's backcourt in the closing minutes. St. John's secures an Indianapolis berth in an absolute thriller that showcases the Pitino effect in March. St. John's wins. Florida vs. Illinois. Florida's SEC depth and tournament experience are not enough to overcome Illinois' three-point shooting and offensive rebounding. The Illini return to the Final Four. Arizona vs. Purdue. Arizona's transition game is too fast for the Purdue bigs to handle over 40 minutes. Jaden Bradley controls the pace to lead Arizona to the Final Four in Indianapolis. The Wildcats' ability to stretch the floor and attack the rim prevents Purdue from settling into their interior defensive sets. Arizona wins. Michigan vs. Virginia, a battle of efficiency and discipline between two top coaches. Michigan's offensive movement finds the gaps in the Virginia defense to secure a Final Four spot. Dusty May reaches his first Final Four with the Wolverines in just his second year. This is a clash of high-intensity styles in the heart of Indianapolis. Rick Pitino's St. John's squad brings a relentless full-court pressure, looking to fatigue the Illini backcourt and force live ball turnovers. However, Illinois counters with the interior dominance of 7-footer Tomislav Ivisic, who's been a matchup nightmare throughout the tournament. While the Red Storm's havoc style keeps the game close, the Illini's size advantage on the glass and their ability to finish through contact in the paint prove to be the difference. Illinois executes their half-court sets in the final minutes to secure a spot in the title game. Illinois wins. Michigan vs. Arizona. In a heavyweight battle of one seeds, the Midwest champion Wolverines face off against the West champion Wildcats. Arizona looks to push the pace behind Jaden Bradley and the versatile scoring of Koa Pete, aiming to turn the game into a high-scoring transition affair. Michigan, led by Ellie Cadeau's elite playmaking and Dusty May's unselfish offensive system, stays composed under the bright lights. The Wolverines' superior ball movement and perimeter shooting allow them to exploit gaps in Arizona's defense during the second half. Michigan's discipline and late-game free throw shooting propelled them to the national championship. It comes down to an all-Big Ten finale for the title. Illinois looks to use their physical interior presence to disrupt Michigan's rhythm, but the Wolverines have been the most efficient team in the country all month. Ellie Cadeau controls the tempo, finding open shooters and navigating the Illini's length with ease. Despite a valiant effort from Illinois' front court, Michigan's depth and tactical execution are too much to overcome in the final 10 minutes. Dusty May leads the Wolverines to the mountaintop, securing the program's first national title in decades. And there you have it. The Michigan Wolverines are our projected 2026 national champion. It wasn't an easy road, but Dusty May's team showed incredible unselfishness and poise as they navigated a bracket full of elite programs. We saw the rise of the Bouger twins, the grit of Houston's defense, and a run for the ages for Rick Pitino's St. John's squad. Whether your bracket is still perfect or completely bruised, remember to enjoy every second of the best 3 weeks in sports. This year has proven that any team can be beaten, but in the end, the Wolverines stood tall in Indianapolis.